All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. We have, of course, Christmas coming up this week and New Year's next week, but we have plenty of time to help clients get funded and get you paid before the end of the year. So, this is our daily Zoom. We have most weekday mornings. We call it the 509 South Pacific Daily Zoom. Key resources as shown on the screen here would be first of all our website 509pacific.org shown in the background. Here's where the three primary grant subsidized resources are available. The quick cash at the top, free shelf corps in the middle, free funding proposals at the bottom, and hidden in there is the link to become an affiliate if you'd like to help us help others and get paid. With that being said, we have a tech support line 903-347-8042. Our past trainings are up on YouTube on our YouTube channel. As a 501c3 nonprofit, we have applied for, received, and administer a grant. There are three mandates associated with that grant, the first of which is to help improve financial literacy. I think today's topic is going to be spot on to that. Secondly, we provide free shelf corps, which is there in the middle. And third is to get money into the hands of small business owners so they have the funds they need to start or grow a business. And that is accessed through the bottom of the page, the free funding proposal. Today's topic is an incredibly important one, and I suspect many of you could actually teach this subject versus needing me to instruct it. But I'll go ahead and go through the formula for funding, and I absolutely I invite any questions, comments, or constructive criticism that you may have. So, as we get ready for the holidays, depending upon your family's traditions and your cultures, maybe food is an important part of the holidays. And so, in many cases, many families will have their favorite dish. So, if we were to make your family's favorite dish, we need two things, don't we? We need the ingredients and we need the recipe. So, assuming that we have those two within reason, we can make pretty much anything. Some recipes are more complicated than others, to make green beans versus a lobster bisque, a lot of difference in the number of steps. But in general, we would need ingredients and a recipe. Well, we want to make sure that everyone knows, consistent with mandate number one, that there is a formula for funding. In some cases, especially those of you that are affiliates, you'll go out and you'll talk to prospects, and sometimes they'll dismiss you because they think it's too good to be true. It's because they don't understand A, what the formula for funding is, and B, they don't realize that you and I can provide them both the recipe and the ingredients. So let's go ahead and go through that now. Math was not necessarily, especially algebra, my strong suit in high school and college, but let's do a formula. And the formula is E plus the three C's equals a fundable business. So the E equals the business entity. It's going to be pretty much, and I'm going to give you general rules that are typically the case. I'm sure you'd be able to provide some outlier exceptions. But in general, we're going to need a business entity if we want to get business funding. Now, what does that mean specifically? Well, there's certain elements that a business needs to have. Just having a business entity is not necessarily enough, but we need a business entity that's properly set up. And that's often a barrier we see. That is frankly where agenda or mandate number two comes into play. So let's scroll this up a bit and we actually go through what's included in the free shelf corp. And guess what? It's designed to provide what we're talking about. So we certainly need to have an entity in good standing at the federal and state levels that is in the client's name. Now, I'll create a little spacing just so it doesn't seem so crowded. And maybe that makes sense or not. Now, you might say, well, couldn't we get funding as a sole proprietorship or even a partnership if you're working with someone or some other people without actually filing it at the state and federal level? Theoretically, yes, but we're going to have less borrowing capacity. So normally we would want a corporation. Can you get funding off of an LLC? Sure, but in general, a C corp is typically the most fundable entity type. But without debating over LLC versus C corps and S corps, we definitely need to have an entity that is in good standing, which means there's commonly annual filings. And so if the business has been around, those filings are current. Any fees or costs are paid at the federal and state level, as well as taxes if applicable. So, number one, can't get around if we want a fundable business. It's the first element of a fundable business entity. Number two, and again, we can keep referring over to our cheat sheet here on the website because the reason we give away free shelf corps is a lot of people don't have the E in the formula. Number two, we are going to need a business plan. Now, different lenders have different requirements for what's in a business plan, but the business plan at least is going to describe to the reader, which is ultimately the lender, the underwriter of the lender, of what does this business do, what's its services, what um, how does it make money? And similarly, we'll go to number three. We're going to need financial projections. So projections are forward looking. We would recommend 36 months, 3 years of financial projections. And again, do we provide the entity? Yes. Do we provide the business plan? Actually, yes. The business plan comes with the free shelf corp ready to go. Can we change it? Can we edit it? Of course, but it's actually ready to go. Financial projections already developed, which is number three over here, ready to go. So what I'm going through is not a sales pitch of why someone should get a free shelf corp from us, but you will see this mirror image of what's needed and what we've built into the free shelf corps because we're trying to solve that problem. Number four, we do need a unique commercial address. This is an area where people will sometimes want to debate. Well, no, it's just fine if I work from my home. Well, sure, you can work from your home, work from your yacht, work from your corporate plane, but the business itself needs to be domiciled. It needs to be set with a specific business address that is seen as credible. So we provide that's needed. Scroll this down or stretch it down a little bit. And that gets us to the fifth element of having a fundable business entity is typically there's going to be collateral needed. We won't speak too much about that. It is incorporated with a free shelf corp, but as you probably know, collateral is one of the three C's. So we'll go ahead and take it off and address it under this three C's. So let's stop here for a moment. We'll have people that come to us and they want to find reasons. It's that yeah, but. Well, yeah, but this doesn't apply to me. Well, actually, it does if we're trying to get business funding. Yeah, but I'll get an address after I get funding. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because we're going to have to apply for funding with the entity, and for it to be fundable, these are the base core elements we need. So, any questions, comments, concerns on the four elements that makes an entity fundable, which also happens to match what we give away with the free shelf corps? Okay, I think we're all on the same page. So that is the E. Is that all that it takes? If we just had this, are we ready to go get funding? Well, again, different lenders have different requirements, but when we're setting up a business, our goal is to set it up for what you might call max funding, optimal funding, significant funding, not just a little bitty loan. So let's go ahead and then get into the rest of the formula because we've now covered the E, which is the business entity set up properly. So now we're ready for the three C's. Who can tell me if you would go ahead and type it into the Q&A? It's like a chat box. What are the three C's? What do those three C's stand for? If you could type it into the chat box, it's kind of like a well, it's called the Q&A, but it's like a chat box on Zoom. Go ahead and type that in. Let's see who knows what the three C's are. Three C's. And you're right, I cheated and I already showed you what one of them was when I mentioned collateral before. Eduardo has a question as we're waiting for the rest of you to respond. Can a person have multiple fundable businesses? Absolutely. All right, Eduardo got it right. So let's go ahead and go through the three C's. So the three C's are in no particular order. So as I reference these, this isn't the order they have to be listed nor the order of importance, but there is credit, there is collateral, and there is capacity. So let's talk about each because what's our goal today? We want to all have the same foundational knowledge of what does it take? What is the formula for funding? The formula for funding is in fact E plus the three C's equal a fundable business. And then also I want to illustrate how what you and I do, assuming you're an affiliate, what you and I do to be able to help people have a fundable business. It's why it's not too good to be true. It's why we can guarantee, literally in writing, guarantee funding because we're providing them the recipe and the ingredients. Now, some of you might say, well, so far what we covered is kind of basic. I mean, anyone could get that or do that. I don't disagree. Now, we provide it very conveniently in a packaged way, but when we get to the three C's, it's a little bit more complicated. So let's get to that. Now, when we get to credit, we do need to realize that there are two types of credit. There's business credit, and then there's personal credit. Business credit is, of course, based off of the EIN of the business. So is the business entity itself credit worthy? And that's part of what we do is we add trade lines to and it falls under the funding proposal, by the way, because you might say, well, Tom, you're talking about these three C's. I don't see that here. That's right. So now we're talking about this process that we go through with the free funding proposal to help people have a fundable business. So the three C's comes under the funding proposal. We get them an initial proposal, get them funded right away, work with them normally over 2 to 4 weeks, build up the three C's. All right. So business credit is important. That's where the business has demonstrated to the outside world that it has had access to credit and that it pays its bills on time. Makes sense. That doesn't happen automatically. Just because you have an entity doesn't mean that you have good business credit. This is an additional step, and we do this for free for everyone that's going through the funding proposal. If they're using an entity that we provide them, that's fine. We'll build the business credit off of it. If they're using their own entity, fine. We will do that for their current business. Personal credit, of course, is off of the individual social security number. A lot of times people will say, well, I want to do everything under the business, not under personal credit. Well, there are some lenders, some loan programs that will not look at personal credit, but there are some that do. And with the grant, we actually help with both. I just described briefly how we help add trade lines for building business credit, but also you'll see here we added back in a free credit sweep. So it's free, it's not a charge. It's technically not considered credit repair, but our legal team can assist grant participants in removing derogatory items and adding positive credit. So credit is one of the three C's. There's two elements of it, business credit and personal credit. How much we need of each depends upon the individual lender. So let's go back and say we're making cookies, right? Are we making chocolate chip cookies or are we making oatmeal raisin cookies? Well, do we need chocolate chips? Do we need good personal credit? Well, we don't need chocolate chips for some types of cookies, some we do. We can pick a recipe based on what the client has, but I don't think that you could ever find a reason why everyone wouldn't want to have good personal credit. Cameron brings up a good point. So, yes, the program works great for people that already have some of these elements in place. So, I'm describing, I think, in somewhat detail, the recipe and how we provide the ingredients. But Cameron's right. Some people come to us and they already have an entity with trade lines. Well, that's great. That doesn't mean it's not needed. It just means they already have the chocolate chips. Some people come to us and they already have a strong personal credit profile. That's outstanding. They already have that ingredient. But I'm not trying to suggest that this is a better program for people with good credit or bad credit. It can work for either group, but we do provide the recipe and the ingredients regardless. Okay. Thank you, Cameron, for pointing that out. So now we get to collateral. Collateral is a little bit more difficult to understand than credit. So again, there are different types of funding, and some don't require collateral, but for your normal, traditional business loans, collateral is important, especially if what we're trying to do is get a working capital loan. Because with a working capital loan, the client is getting a wire from the bank of cash. And usually that cash will be spent. So then, if that client, that borrower, should not pay the bank back, the lender back, what can the bank do to recover? Because the cash is probably already spent, it's already probably gone. Well, there's other types of collateral that can be pledged, and it could either be business collateral or personal collateral. From our experience, a lot of people aren't like you and I. A lot of people, they don't have enough collateral to match what the amount of funding that they want. So many clients will have what's called a collateral shortfall, and that can prevent them from getting funded, just like these other elements. If you don't have the ingredients, we're going to have a problem. We either need to get the ingredients or we need to change the recipe. So we will go through and identify. Now, we do provide free, so we do provide free collateral for everyone, but there's a finite amount we provide for free. So if what we provide the client plus what they have is enough, great. If not, they have a collateral shortfall. And so then we have one of two options: either increase the collateral to match the loan request to resolve the shortfall, or reduce the capital request, the loan request, the funding request to match the amount of collateral that the client currently has. We'll work with them on that, but it is important to understand that collateral is important and it often prevents borrowers from qualifying. But through our model, we can resolve credit issues, we can resolve collateral issues, and then now we're going to talk about how we can help resolve capacity. So when we get to the third C, capacity means the same as cash flow. So in other words, does the borrower, does the business have enough money to pay back the loan? Well, we can partially accomplish that through the financial projections, which are included in the free shelf corp. Our clients might already have those. I see that Eduardo has another point. So when a client comes to us, most clients are coming in through those of you that are affiliates to get a free funding proposal. So we take a look at what they have, what they qualify for now, and then help them build a roadmap to get from where they're at to where they need to be. If they already have elements in place, as Cameron was mentioning, great. If not, we can go to the store and get those ingredients necessary. All right. So with cash flow, it can be measured from our projections, which we provide. If they don't have projections, we can build those out for them. That's not a problem. That's part of what we do. And then also it could be, let's separate it. So we'll talk about the difference between historical versus projections. So if the business has been around, then typically there will be historical financial data. If they've been around long enough, they'd have tax returns, bank statements, financial statements like an income statement, P&L. If it's a newer business, maybe there are no historicals and everything's going to be projection based. We work with each client based upon where their business is, and it is not a barrier to have a new or newer business that doesn't have historical financials. Some of you will fight me, tooth and nail on this, saying, "Well, no, banks require 2 years of bank statements." Well, some lenders do, but not all lenders do. So part of this is art and part of it's science. Part of it is matching each client, each grant participant, with the right type of funding based upon their mitigating circumstances. So, as we conclude this, we understand that there is a formula for funding, and it can be summarized as E plus the three C's equals a fundable business. The biggest variable is what is it the client's trying to accomplish. So one of the first things that we do with each client is identify how much funding are they looking for and what are their use of funds, kind of like their shopping list, because how they're going to use the money will impact different aspects. So let's give a example. Let's say that Dwight, who's on here, let's say Dwight's going to buy a restaurant. Great. So with that, until Dwight buys the restaurant and starts operating the restaurant, Dwight can't make money, right? He's got to have the restaurant, he has to have the staff, he has to have the ingredient, he has to have the food, the inventory. So some businesses are going to have absolutely no income. Let's say that Corinthian's going to buy a hotel. Well, until she owns the hotel, the prior owner might have capacity, but she won't. So again, we really need to look at each client's file to put together the right recipe and get the right ingredients. But the most important thing in this discussion today is not to try to nitpick and say, well, what about this scenario? What about this scenario? What we do will work in any scenario because we're going to evaluate where the client is, where they want to go, and then put together a plan to accomplish that. But that plan may not even need to have a business credit buildup or may not even need to have personal credit worthiness. Maybe that plan doesn't require collateral. Maybe that plan doesn't require capacity. All right, I see Elaine's bringing up a good point. Another way that we provide capacity is through the liquidation of AR. Now, she's a little more advanced, so she's bringing up an advanced topic that might confuse some of us. But we provide collateral, which we've covered. That collateral is in the form of accounts receivables. It's real. It's collectible. So we have a collections department that's led by Monica, who's on training right now. And so Monica and her team is responsible for liquidating the AR. And so we can literally take a business that might not have clients yet, might not have customers, might not have organic income, but we can show bank deposits into that client's bank account based upon liquidating the AR, which we provide for free. All right, so let's go through the questions, comments, concerns you have, because hopefully I've made my point, right? So why is this approach that you and I have Why is it legal? Why is it ethical? Why is it effective? Why is it real? Because we're working off of the formula for funding, which is true. It's an absolute truth. And then, secondly, we provide the ingredients as necessary to help the client get from where they're at to where they need to be. Some of you will come to us and you'll want, I need step by step information of what the process is. Different people have different circumstances. Again, if we're making lobster bisque, which I don't know how to make, but I understand it's very complicated, it's going to be a different set of instructions than making chicken noodle soup. So there's not people that are simple minded will have the most trouble understanding when you're trying to educate them that the formula for funding is not always the same. It depends on what we're trying to accomplish and the client's starting point. But that's what we'll take care of. From your world as an affiliate, we keep it super simple. You become an affiliate free and easy. You'll get your affiliate landing page. You'll be open for business. As we've talked about in other trainings, you make a really good income. I mean, you're making 5% of each referred client's capital raise. At the minimum, you're making 5,000 per referral. You could very well be making multiples of that, and you don't have to do any of the work. My goal here isn't trying to burden you with needing to go teach people the formula for funding, but if you can understand it well enough, it can give you, I think, the confidence to want to be active. All right, so we've got questions. Question is regarding people from outside the United States. So yes, we can work with people outside of the United States. That gets brought up almost on a daily basis. The next question is from Cameron. Can a new Shelf Corp get a higher amount of funding? Well, the amount of funding that a client, that a business would get is going to be based upon their formula for funding. So the stronger they are, the more the increased amount of funding they can receive. So we have the basics. The E is the basic, regardless of if we're looking for a little capital raise or a large one. But the three C's can differ, right? So we could have a little bit of credit worthiness or a lot. From a collateral perspective, we could have a little bit or a lot. From a capacity perspective, we could have a little bit or a lot. Also, considering financial projections as well as historical. So I think what Cameron's question, I'll restate it, paraphrase it, is what determines how much funding a client would get? Well, we're going to start with understanding what is the client's goal, what are their uses of funds, which I've stated, and then we need to build a formula for funding that's specific to them that matches their wants, needs, and preferences. But the ingredients are going to be having the entity and having credit, collateral, and capacity. But that's what we provide. So that's the big difference. I get questions from Varney. He and I talk almost every day, and Varney is often asking, how is this possible? How can we generate such large funding offers for so many clients? It's because we're building out legally and ethically a fundable business. And that's what makes us different. There's lots of loan brokers, there's lots of lenders. They don't do what you and I do. We build fundable businesses. There's lots of places to go get funding once you have a fundable business. The hard part, or the prerequisite at least, is to have a fundable business. And hopefully now I've demonstrated to you how we do that. So if they need an entity, great. Come over here and get a free Shelf Corp. If they already have a fundable entity, great. Skip this. We'll use theirs. Then we need to go get funding. We get them an initial funding proposal. Everyone gets at least one offer. There's no upfront cost. There's no hard inquiries. There's no minimum time in business. Can get six figures or more. Client gets to pick which offers they want, decline the others. If they have bad credit, not a problem because everyone gets at least one offer and we can assist them for free in improving their credit. Do we have success stories? Absolutely, right here. Well, what's my interest rate going to be? We go through that right here in the second link under resources. To get a free funding proposal, it's here, which is frankly the same as the link here. If you're an affiliate, you'll have your own link. If you want to become an affiliate, right here it is. And then here's how to register for the daily live Zooms. Any other questions that anyone else has? All right, Mark has a question. And his question is about credit. So I attempted to cover this a moment ago, Mark. Maybe you could offer a more detailed question because what I've attempted to describe is that we build business credit by adding trade lines, and we build personal credit when necessary through the credit sweep. So I think those are the answers, but if that didn't address it, Mark, let me know. Who else has questions on the formula? Does this make sense? It should be quite empowering because we can literally, you and I can take anyone and get them a very large capital raise. You and I can take anyone and help them get a very large capital raise based upon the formula for funding and the three C's. So, what's our next step? Well, our next step would be if you want to become an affiliate, come become an affiliate. Free, simple, and easy here. No, 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 I just want funding. Great. Come to 509pacific.org. Come right down here and fill out the link to get a free funding proposal. Crazy simple. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Let us know what we can do to assist you. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye bye.